Can I ask you something honest? Like, really honest? Not the kind of question you answer in 2 seconds and move on from. When is the last time you actually trusted God? Not believed in Him, not talked about Him, not showed up to church and sang about Him, but actually completely let go of something and trusted Him with it? Because I think most of us, if we sit still long enough to be real with ourselves, would have to admit that our trust has limits. Invisible lines we draw somewhere between our lips and our hearts. We say, "Lord, I trust you." And then we lie awake at 3 in the morning, running the same 5 worst-case scenarios through our heads, again, and again, and again. I want to talk about that gap today, that space between the trust we claim and the trust we actually live. Because the Bible doesn't just tell us to trust God like it's some personality trait we should develop. It shows us what happens to the people who actually do it. And what happens is not small. Let me start with something that might make you a little uncomfortable. What are you still holding on to? Because here's the thing about control. It doesn't feel like fear when you're inside it. It feels like responsibility. It feels like wisdom, being prepared. You're not anxious, you tell yourself. You're just being realistic. But somewhere underneath all that realism is a quiet, deeply human terror of what happens if you stop managing everything. And so, you keep going, carrying burdens that were never meant for your shoulders, staying awake over things that are already in God's hands, running completely empty while calling it faithfulness. And I think this is where most of us actually live, not in full rebellion, not in outright doubt, just in this exhausted middle place where we believe in God but haven't fully trusted Him. So, what actually changes when you do? The first thing that happens is your relationship with peace changes, completely, not your circumstances. Peace. Isaiah 26:3 says God will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in Him. I used to read that and think it was like a spiritual reward. Trust hard enough, God sends peace down, like a prize. But I don't think that's what it's saying at all. I think it's describing a natural consequence. When trust shifts the burden from, "I have to fix everything," to, "I trust this will work out," something changes inwardly. And honestly, science backs this up. Psychologically, that kind of surrender actually calms the body's stress response, lowers adrenaline, lowers heart rate, which, when you think about it, changes everything. Because we've been taught that peace comes from resolution. You'll feel better once the situation is handled, once the diagnosis comes back clear, once the money comes in, once the relationship gets repaired. But the peace that comes from trusting God doesn't wait for resolution. It shows up in the middle of the storm. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds." Notice that. Not peace that makes sense. Peace that transcends understanding. Peace that has no logical reason to exist, given the circumstances. That's the kind of peace God gives when you actually trust Him. The kind that makes people look at you strange because you're calm when everything's fallen apart. And that kind of calm, that's not a personality type. That's a supernatural result of genuine trust. The second thing that happens is God starts directing your steps in ways your own wisdom never could. Proverbs 3:5-6. Probably the most familiar verse about trust in the whole Bible. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. But there's something in that verse most people skip right over. It says, lean not on your own understanding, not your own plans, not your own efforts, your own understanding. And that's devastating, honestly, because we trust our understanding more than almost anything. We've built our entire lives on it. Our understanding tells us which job to take, which relationship to pursue, which door to walk through. And here God is saying, even that isn't the highest compass available to you. Joseph is the clearest picture Of this in all of Scripture, a young man with dreams from God who then watched everything go wrong, thrown in a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned. God wasn't promising him a quick fix. He was promising he hadn't lost the plot. Years later, Joseph looked back at every betrayal, every injustice, every closed door, and saw a straight path. Not because it felt straight while he was on it, because God was directing it the entire time. That's what complete trust does to your life. It gives God room to author a story you couldn't have written for yourself. Here's the part I find genuinely fascinating. Research in psychology and neuroscience has started documenting something people of faith have known for centuries. Trust in God actually alleviates anxiety and despair. It promotes mental health and resilience in adversity. A study published in the Journal of Religion and Health found that the relationship between faith in God and poor mental health, depression, stress, anxiety, is mediated by hope, meaning, and resilience. In other words, faith in God doesn't just help you feel better spiritually. It literally restructures how your mind processes hardship. It rebuilds the internal architecture of how you cope. And the third thing that happens when you trust God completely is that fear starts losing its authority over your decisions. This is the one that quietly destroys so many lives. It's not loud fear. It just shows up in small choices. You don't apply for the position because you might fail. You don't have the conversation because you might lose the relationship. You don't step into what God's clearly calling you toward because you can't see the whole staircase. And you need to see the whole staircase before you'll put your foot on the first step. David understood this. He didn't write Psalm 56:3 from a comfortable place. He wrote it while being hunted, while his life was genuinely in danger. And what he said wasn't, "I am not afraid." He said, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." He doesn't claim he never feels afraid. He says, "When I am afraid, here is what I do." That's the distinction. Complete trust in God doesn't erase fear from the human experience. It changes what you do with the fear when it arrives. And slowly, as you keep bringing your fear to God and watching Him meet you there, the fear loses its grip. Not because you got stronger, because you stopped giving it the last word. The fourth thing that happens is your burden becomes something you no longer have to carry alone. And I want to say this carefully because I think we rush right past it. 1 Peter 5:7 says to cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Not some of your anxiety, not the manageable stuff, all of it. And the reason most people don't do this isn't because they don't believe in God. It's because deep down, they're not sure He actually cares about the specific thing they're carrying. The financial pressure feels too ordinary. The loneliness feels too embarrassing. The private grief feels too complicated to even explain, even to God. But the verse doesn't say cast your significant anxieties on Him. It says all. He cares for those who trust in Him. And that word cares carries the sense of attentive, personal knowledge. You're not a number in a divine queue. God knows your name, knows your situation, and tends to you with specific, unhurried attention. There's something deeply healing about actually believing that. Not just knowing it as theology, but believing it about your particular life, in your particular season, carrying your particular weight. When you do, something releases, the grip loosens, the shoulders drop. You stop trying to manage everything because you finally believe someone else is already managing what you can't. The fifth thing is that your faith grows stronger in the very places you thought it would break. I know that sounds backwards, but look at how the Bible actually works. It's not the comfortable seasons that produce deep faith. It's the testing. James 1:3 says, "The testing of your faith produces perseverance." Romans 5 says, "Suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope." Nobody stays the same after going through real trials. Complete trust inside a trial isn't pretending the trial isn't painful. It's not performing spiritual contentment when your heart is broken. It's something as simpler and honestly harder than either of those things. It's choosing to believe God is still working even when you can't see what he's doing. Job is the most extreme example the Bible gives us. He lost his children, his health, his livelihood, everything. And from the rubble of his life, he still declared that even if God allowed the worst, he would still hope in him. That's not spiritual performance. That's the result of a trust built slowly, over time, through a life genuinely surrendered to God. And God restored him, abundantly. I'm not saying every trial ends in immediate restoration. Sometimes restoration looks different than we imagined. Sometimes it looks like wisdom you carry forward instead of what you lost being returned. But this much I'm certain of. God shows himself to people who actually let go, without reservation. And the sixth thing, the one I want you to carry with you longest. When you trust God completely, you start seeing him move in your actual life. Not just in sermons, not just in Bible stories about other people in other centuries. In your life, in your story, in your specific, ordinary, messy, unremarkable Monday morning. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. But I think what that verse is also saying is, without faith, you can't really see him. Not because he isn't there, because trust is the lens through which his movement becomes visible. Think about it this way. Two people can go through the exact same year, same setbacks, same closed doors, same unexpected turns. One person looks back and sees a series of random, painful events. The other looks back and sees the fingerprints of a God who is present in every single moment. The difference isn't the events. The difference is the trust they walked through those events with. The confidence of people who follow God is built on the character of God, not the circumstances he allows them to experience. That's the key. Complete trust isn't built on understanding every circumstance. It's built on knowing who God is. And when you know who he is, truly know it, not just recite it, your eyes start recognizing him. In the provision you didn't expect, in the door that closed before you walked into the wrong thing, in the peace that showed up when it had no logical reason to, in the person who called you at exactly the right moment. He was there. He's always been there. Trust just gives you eyes to see it. So, let me ask you one more time, and I really want you to sit with this one. What are you still holding on to that you haven't placed in his hands? Not because God needs you to perform surrender, not because trusting him is a requirement you have to meet before he'll love you. He already loves you, completely, without condition, without limit, but because you were never designed to carry what you've been carrying alone. The weight of the unknown, the fear of the future, the exhaustion of trying to control an outcome that was never fully yours to control in the first place. Faith is a powerful anchor, the belief that there's purpose even in uncertainty. And the people who find that anchor, not as a theory, not as a Sunday morning sentiment, but as a daily lived reality, they're the ones who experience peace in chaos, direction in confusion, courage in fear, rest in burden, growth in suffering, and the unmistakable presence of God in the middle of ordinary life. That life is available to you, right now. Not after you have it more together, not after you understand it more fully, not after the situation resolves. Right now, just open your hands, let go of what you've been gripping so tightly, and say simply, Lord, I trust you with this, with all of it, with what I can see and what I can't, with what I understand and what I don't, with today, with tomorrow. He has never failed those who truly place their trust in him. He won't start with you.